Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Courtside with Beilinson Tennis, part of the Tennis Channel Podcast Network. We are pleased to welcome to the pod University of Alabama men's head tennis coach George Husack, who recently coached his singles player Filip Plenenchek to an NCAA singles championship. Coach, this is going to be a fun one for me because, as you know, I have a personal connection to the school with my daughter just completing her sophomore year down there. She loves it. Thank you for taking the time and welcome to the pod, Coach.
Hey, thank you for having me, and glad there's a connection. And I just want to know how much crimson and white is in your closet these days, as well as maybe the houndstooth pattern.
We are loaded up. We are loaded. And you see the polo. This is just one of a few. So we're loaded up and prepared for this and looking forward to this conversation. Look, it's been a few weeks since Filip won the singles championship. Incredible feat. I always think winning a championship at any level is really hard to do, especially at the collegiate level in tennis. Such a difficult sport. The players who he had to get through to win the title. Has time slowed down for you a bit? And have you had a chance to really appreciate what he accomplished? Truly a remarkable feat.
Yeah, definitely. Very magical, exciting for him. I remember having a conversation with his father during the tournament, and if you win your first two rounds, you get All-American status. And I know that's something that Filip really wanted. We've got a wall in our lounge that has all the All-Americans for Alabama up, and his goal is to be on that wall. And I said, well, now that he's won his second match, I think the dam is broken and the water's going to come rushing through. And it did. It just kept flowing. And for Filip, it was very special, and certainly for myself, for the program, and really for all of the community. It's been a lot of fun to see. We have with the billboards up in town with his photo up there. So it's a big deal. It definitely is a big deal.
It is definitely a big deal. And, I usually co-host these pods with Steve Flink. We cover mostly pro tennis, but we do dip into college tennis. And he apologizes that he couldn't be available for today. But one of my favorite things about doing these interviews with coaches and third parties is hearing their journeys and how they got involved into the sport, playing. And then, we'll obviously get into your career coaching. But if you can kind of walk us through how tennis became a part of your life, and then continuing on, you were at a few places and ended up at San Diego State.
Yeah, I really kind of I fell into coaching for sure. Grew up with a love of tennis just by watching Bjorn Borg win Wimbledon's. And he was always kind of my favorite. My father played in the local park. Played at our high school across the street from my house. He just played socially and played in some, really tough real estate broker doubles tournaments. But outside of that, I didn't know much about the USTA. I was a ball kid, a ball runner, and a scorer for what was the national hard courts back in Burlingame, California, back in the day. And that's where I saw Luke Jensen serve lefty and righty. And I was like, whoa, where's this kid from? But I was always kind of around tennis. I just didn't know much about it. I ended up playing some in high school. I only played a few STA tournaments when I was a junior, and ended up walking on my freshman year. I went to Cal Poly Pomona for some reason. Not sure why, but I got mono during my freshman year, halfway through spring break, and returned home. Played for a junior college there, here locally, where I was growing up in Northern California. And then it was really time to move away to another 4-year university. And I thought about some places, but really my high school buddies were at San Diego State. And I went there and I had to try out for the team, and I made the team, and that was kind of it. And I always wanted to keep playing, but probably didn't lend enough attention to where do I go from here with tennis. So I jumped into the financial world and where to financial planning and retirement plans. And then after a few years, I realized I needed to kind of figure out a little bit more in my life. I went back to school and got my MBA, and I specialized in nonprofit marketing, where I did some projects for some organizations that I volunteered for quite extensively in San Francisco. And then I was ready to start my tennis career. for some reason. I started hitting with a friend of mine who was playing satellites at the time. I decided that was something I wanted to do. I did that for a few years, played club tennis, played in Mexico, in the US, and in Japan for a month, tennis coaching. And
Yeah, it's
since in
interesting with you.
29,
Like a lot of people, who played collegiately, maybe they get their grad degree, maybe they're a graduate assistant. You had a really different road than that. I mean, you left tennis for a few years, went in full blast into that corporate world, kind of realized, this maybe is not something that you want to do going forward. Detoured, reversed course, and just hit your experiences, whether it was now playing a couple of years and then obviously getting into coaching.
yeah, for sure. And I think the corporate world, while it was nice to get a paycheck, um, I just felt like I wasn't really impacting much. Maybe I would impact someone's financial statement by what I did with a fund value, but outside of that, I just didn't feel like I was making much of an impact. So really fell into coaching and started helping out my buddy at Santa Clara University as an assistant coach. And we were way underfunded, budget wise, scholarship wise. So anything that you did, um, from putting up chairs and towels for the guys on court because we had no benches, it made an impact.
Yeah.
And being on a college campus, I knew what my college experience was and what it could have been, maybe a little bit more. And so I really wanted to help these guys as much as possible. And I think
Awesome. And
that's what came
I
out
mean,
of
you've
that.
been all over the country in your stops. I mean, you started at Santa Clara, you had USC, you've been to Illinois, not all in that order, but I mean, you're out west, you're in the Midwest, you're now in the Southeast, Alabama. Talk a little bit. I know you dipped into it a little bit, Santa Clara, but talk a little bit about your experiences at Illinois. You work for Brad Dancer, a friend of mine
Yeah.
as well. Great, great guy. And I know you have great respect for Brad. And then obviously USC, and you had Stevie there for a little bit.
Yeah, so Illinois, again, I called Brad because he was a friend of mine. He had coached at Fresno State. I remember when he left for Illinois, and all I did was say, "Congrats on your run to the final," because their team had made the final. And turns out he told me that his assistant coach was leaving, and he asked if I wanted to make the move and come out to Illinois. And my wife and I had just been married for 6 months. She was like, "Let's go for it. It's an adventure." We went out there, and I really felt like, gosh, I get to do something that I hadn't done before, which was be part of a program that had done well nationally. I got to compete against a whole different level of opponents that I did not compete at while at Santa Clara. I get to work with a good friend that I gotten to know over the years. And then really see, okay, is this what I want to continue making a career out of?
One little hiccup with
And it
that
was.
job, though, right? You thought you were going to be coaching Kevin, right? And he turned pro right before you
Yeah,
started.
2 days before school started, I had lunch with Kevin Anderson, and he said he was turning pro. Rats. So, but it was he trained with us quite a bit while I was there, and he was just starting out. Um, but then I got fortunate, and a job opened up at USC, and I got to know Peter Smith when he was a coach at Pepperdine. And I think just based on relationships, the opportunity was there. I interviewed for the job and got the job. And then I was blessed with 3 incredible years of learning and working with a great friend in Peter and seeing some incredible players like Stevie or Yannick Hoffman, Robert Farah, Raymond Sarmiento, Daniel Wynn, Emilio Gomez. I mean, the
You
list
guys were loaded
goes,
those
we
years.
were
Your
loaded.
team was absolutely loaded
We
there.
were loaded. And the thing that I loved most was probably being able to play ultimate frisbee with all these guys because they were definitely better than me on court, but I could hang with them on the ultimate frisbee field. And Stevie and Yannick are still the two best athletes that I had on my team during
When you
that
were
time.
there, coach, and again, you were, at the peak of collegiate tennis at that point, being the assistant, was there definitely something in the back of your eye that said, look, I want to be a head coach at, maybe a Power Five school, and then hence, maybe talk about how the University of Alabama opportunity opened up?
Yeah, I was open for anything really. I knew after 3 years of being there that it was time that I needed to look for something else. Um, and I would talk to Peter a lot about that. And I was like, well, do you think I can get a big job here? And he goes, well, you win it one time, maybe. If you now that you've won it twice, this was after year two. I interviewed for a job at another university and didn't get it. And it wasn't the right fit. And then after the third year, I was like, he goes, I mean, you got some opportunities here. But in college tennis, it's not like you can just pick up the phone and say, hey, I want to go to this school. So when Alabama called, it was about my relationship with former coach Billy Pate, and he had given my name as a candidate, and it just, again, it worked out. And my wife and I, it was a huge decision because we had just moved closer to family with three kids under the age of two, and we're like, do we want to leave them all? And we didn't. That's the truth. We did not want to leave them all, but we knew for what Alabama could provide us, a professional opportunity, but a family opportunity, an opportunity for her to be at home with the kids. It was just too big of a deal. And the athletic director at the time, Mal Moore, he said, take the money away, and I want you to see whether you feel like you could live here and be. I'll never forget that his talk to my wife and I, and we left and we're like, if we're going to come, it's because of Coach Moore. And it really was. And Alabama's been our home now for 12 years. And it's been Sweet Home Alabama, and the place that our kids know the best, and a place that my wife and I are married to being at.
Let
This
me
is
ask you
it.
this. You're at a university, coach, where you have some incredible coaches there. One everybody knows who recently retired, but he's still going to be hanging around there giving some advice. You're at a place where championships have been won in other sports. And, we obviously you have Nick Saban who recently retired, but he's going to still be around there. You got Kalen DeBoer coming in. You got Nate Oates on the basketball side. They just had an incredible run and they're loaded up again. They're going to be unbelievable this
Mhm.
coming year. You got Patrick Murphy in women's softball. You got gymnastics. You have like a grad school type of thing knowledge in yourself of just picking other coaches' brains. Is that something you were really looking forward to doing maybe at the beginning when you took that job, or you still look forward to having those conversations with those coaches just because so many good coaches at that university?
Yeah, at every university I was at, I felt like it was really important to get to know the other coaches because we're all in it together. It was a little bit different at Illinois and USC because I wasn't the head coach and I had to kind of make the extra effort to get to know people. But coming here and being braced by so many incredible coaches, I had a note on my desk from Sarah Patterson, who's a legendary Hall of Fame gymnastics coach here that won numerous national team titles. And she just said, I'm glad you're here. And for someone that I've never met before in my life, to send that, and then to be touched by others as well. I mean, that's the people here are incredible. It started with Coach Jenny Mines, who I worked with uh, as a women's tennis coach. She said the people make this place, and it is exactly that. I mean, before we got into the postseason, our team met with Patrick Murphy over at his stadium, and he gave a talk to us. I've had numerous coaches talk to us over the years, and they're just a text message or phone call away. And that's the full gamut. I do want to meet Coach DeBoer here this month, and introduce myself because while I didn't meet with Coach Saban only but a few times, he did leave some everlasting words that I always look to because he is the GOAT.
Well said, well said. And I know we were talking off the record about it a little bit. His saying to you was, move the chains, right? Keep the chains moving. It may not be the best, may not always be the best decision, but feel what's right and just always keep trying to move the chains, right?
100%, 100%. Yes.
Well said. So let's focus in on, all your guys are playing competitively this summer, and then we got the fall, and then the all important spring. You got some momentum behind you right now with what just happened with the program with Philip and others. What are you looking forward to this coming, now in the summer and then this coming fall and the spring?
Well, I've been in touch with a lot of the guys. We stay in touch with them throughout the summer, and they've been competing. So I'm excited for them to have their own canvas, if you will, to compete and to do it without the coaches, because that kind of gets them prepared for the fall, but it also is showcases what they can do outside of Alabama. In the fall, I'm excited to get back into competition again, but really just to prepare for a spring with some seniors that started out here, back in the 21-22 season where we won 0 SEC matches until the SEC championship tournament, where we won one match. And what those guys have done day in and day out without even a flinch. Hey, we want to get better. We want to get better. We want the team to get better. And now we've got 6 starters coming back from last year. So without putting a number on it, I know we're going to be better. If we're not, then it's on me, 100%. But we're going to be better. To where that takes us, I don't know. But I do know that Phillips stated in his press conference that number one, he was coming back, which he is because he was presented that question. And number two, he said, we belong in this final site with the final 8 teams. Just watch out for us next year. We're dangerous. And I'll leave it at that. That's what he's going to say. He's the top dog, but I think that it's felt by the other guys, and I'm excited for what they want to accomplish, and for me to help them along that way.
Oh yeah, no, that's great, and great words from your top player. And it's almost like a player led team right now,
Yeah.
which is a coach's dream too. So we're looking forward
Yes.
to seeing the team can accomplish next year. Coach, this was fun for me. I've gotten to know some of the coaches. You mentioned Jenny before. Jenny, we had on the pod a couple of years ago. She retired about a year ago. Um, she's been so nice. You said it's the people, and I've felt it the last couple of years. You know, meeting some coaches and meeting people around the university, just having my daughter there. It's a wonderful place to go to school, and the people there are great. So I want to thank you for your time. Again, it's been awesome getting to know you, and roll tide.
Hey, roll tide, and don't be a stranger. We want to see if you come back this fall for any events with your daughter. By all means, please reach out.
100%. Thanks, coach.
Thank you.